So pleasure again meeting you, Dr. Sandeep and Christopher. And it's an honor to be part of the same panel. And we are going to talk about designing sustainable and aesthetically pleasing vehicles. So maybe I start with you. You represent the raw material part of it. When we talk of design, we talk of a free flow of ideas. And we talk of sustainability, we are trying to talk about constraints and working within the boundaries. So how is this contradiction and how does it work for you? Do the two coexist? And what are the challenges you see as somebody representing raw material industry?
Yeah, I think thanks for having me in the panel. It's also an honor for me, of course. I think this coexistence, I would say, is nothing new in terms of the sustainability aspects that we are facing or the circular economy that we want to materialize. I believe that if you're talking about materials and to be used in specific applications, you always, in terms of the material nature and the characteristics of the material, you will find constraints in their usage. There is no perfect material, and so you have to always make compromises or prioritize certain characteristics and attributes of that plastic in this case, as we produce from our material supplier position. So it's nothing new, but I agree, it's maybe more challenging, because if you think about recycled materials, you also have constraints both in aesthetics, for the design options when it comes to coloring that could be more difficult or even impossible, and on the other hand, one have to be aware that mechanical recycling also brings in damage of the polymer chains. Therefore, mechanical properties are not the same necessarily always. So this is a topic that needs to be discussed indeed, even more than before. And I believe as a material supplier and as experts in material, it's kind of our job to conduct that dialogue and to educate also these constraints and to try to, as we say, push the boundaries of these constraints and to give designers at their hand commercializable, producible materials and a certain playing field that should be as big as possible, of course. That's a challenge, I agree, but that's also a big opportunity.
Thank you, Christopher. I'll flip that question to you, Sandeep. So as somebody who is using these materials to produce, how difficult it is when you look at sustainability and design?
Yes, good afternoon everyone, and thanks for this panel discussion, because this is what we are going to face in future, the challenges on sustainability, designing, all combined together. So my outlook on this this topic is in such a way that you have various bubbles around a design. Okay, so you have functional thing, cost, process, material. So now you have to add the sustainability as a mandatory thing. So you can't escape. So if you are designing the parts or vehicles or all any plastic parts now, you have to add this sustainability as a part of your design. So first thing is that in sustainability, if you see now, there are various things. So we are not talking about sustainability right from day one, coming to a biodegradable material or a material which is available in US or Europe and making that available in India for the OEMs. Okay, so again, if you want to talk about this topic, the first thing is we need to understand sustainability. So sustainability is not talking about jumping to only a bio or environmental related material, but first is to have material which is available in the local areas. Okay, so that is also one of the thing. Then second, how do you process that material with minimum energy, minimum environmental impact? So it is also taking care of the processing part of it. Designing, obviously we will select a material which is available, which is cost competitive and all those things, but it is also taking care of the energy consumption and water consumption and also the environmental concerns in your factory. Okay, you can't process a material which is giving lot of VOC. Okay, this is also a part of sustainability. Okay, you can't have a biodegradable material coming from Europe with what I can say with sea, air, and lot of carbon footprint traveling across. Okay, so the first thing what we need to understand is that what is the current state and where we want to go. Okay, so before, after, and then that becomes a sustainability journey. And in that journey, we have to do a lot of education. Like our designers today are not aware. They are aware about, 10 years before, they were just transiting from metal to plastics. Now, they have to transit from plastic to plastic, or plastic to sustainable plastics. So this journey will take some time. So educating people, educating our designers. So now it's a complete new aspect. So this aspect has to be added to our old design methodology.
So very well said, Sandeep. You mentioned that there is a lot of education that would be required even for the designers. They were transiting from one material to another, but now within the same material they have to transit from non-sustainable to sustainable grades. Just thinking from that, what comes first? Is it designing a sustainable part, or is it aesthetically appealing part? What comes first?
See, today, if you see our Indian auto industry or even global also, because of awareness and because of sustainable marketing is still not to that level. It is still designing, and then we have a design surface, and we move to, then we find sustainable solution in between.
So you mean design comes first, the design comes first and recipe comes later?
Yes. So, but there are two approaches. We have design-based approach, and there are sustainable-based approach also. Because, okay, based on the complete automotive, if you say it is design-based approach, but if you see on some of the components, now people have started thinking on sustainable-based design. Like seating system is now more and more going towards sustainable based design. Now OEMs are asking, and even the tier ones are looking at how we can provide a sustainable seats to a OEM. Okay, so we talk about recycled PET fabrics, then the foams and all those things. It has started, but it will take time. But at least the thought process has started. But if you see today, it is design based, and then we find sustainable solutions in intermediate to the components.
Christopher, from a raw material perspective, do you offer a solution for an aesthetically pleasing vehicle which is sustainable, or sustainability comes later, first you offer a solution?
I think I would say it depends, right? It depends on customers and their strategy on how to position their vehicles. And we have customers where we see there is already a specific design available, and now they want to, at least in the interior where visible, utilize more sustainable materials and also make that visible. That is one extreme, let me say. And then on the other part, in particular, when it comes to new models, new model generation and electric mobility, there we have customers, they really think through very holistically, and then it depends really on what kind of customer you are facing. I think the topic of education is a very important one that was just mentioned, and the fundamental change that we see with sustainability and design, in my belief, is that the designers and also the engineers, they are more and more asked and forced to think the product end at the beginning. And then that has requirements on the material selection as well, because you might need to build in these loops, as we say, circular economy. What does it mean? That we get the material back, or that we keep it as long as possible in the product life cycle? And that is something that gives more complexity to the whole question, where we want to be also a partner, and where we also face challenges, and where collaboration, again, is so essential. Because if you think about designer role in the past, it started with product and industrial design. So the focus was really the product. if you think about iconic furniture, the product was in the center. Then we were looking into human-centered design and looking into the connection and the interaction of the person or the people with the product. So that gave an additional layer. And nowadays, if we talk about circular design, that gives even more layers, because you have to not only think about the consumer or the user of the product and the product, but you also have to look into the whole processing until you come to the product and its end and afterlife. So it's different additional layers, and that makes it complex, but it also makes it interesting. Yeah? So therefore, it really depends from project to project, where we have to think holistically.
I just want to add something. So, see, as we saw for design, now we have added a sustainability factor for design of any component, which talks about material and all those things. But it also talks about life cycle assessment and end of life. So these two factors have now become important. Earlier we used to do design for assembly, design for disassembly, or design for disassembly has introduced now because of sustainability. But we talk about now these two things which are important, where the designer starts thinking right from day one how this product will be manufactured on a sustainable way, and also at the end of life how it will be recycled or reused or repurposed.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Again, when we talk of designing and sustainability, sustainable designs also have to be, not only have to be environmentally friendly, they have to take care of social requirements, but then economics also comes into picture. My question to both of you is that what if it is, out of the three, to be compromised, and can other two be balanced between environmental requirements, social requirements, and economics?
So I will take, as the mic is with me. So it is not always that sustainable products are costly, or the sustainable thing is costly. As in my earlier discussion, I just told the example also. If I have to select a material which is sustainable, it does not mean that it has to be a biodegradable material. Okay, it will reduce the energy consumption, it will reduce the water usage, and so it is not always necessary that it has to be costly. Okay, so it depends on the solution what you see. Okay, now yes, in the design, but again there is awareness, as I told you, whether people will accept the design which is without vinyl cover, okay, which is looking very natural as a IP or a door. There is no vinyl, there is no leather. Whether that education will come now slowly. So people, in fact, will see that so that compromise has to be done, and then that is not a costly proposal. Now coming to whether it is socially compromised, so in fact sustainable products are better for social things, because when we talk about sustainability, as I told you, it is better to have a processing which is eliminating VOCs in the plant. So it is better in terms of your operator, in the environment and all those things. So the sustainable solution, we should first think that it is not costly. Okay, you have to see end-to-end result, and then the end-to-end result many times is in a long-term cost-effective.
Yeah, not too much to add. I fully agree, and I think maybe whether or not there is a compromise perceived, that depends, I guess, a lot on the time frame that you look at. So look into the economic situation of new raw materials or new materials that are more sustainable. There might be, or there is certainly a higher price to pay, because a lot of the current value chain is based on scale, and that scale is simply not yet there. And I think therefore some economic compromise, especially at the beginning, needs to be done in order to get the system to a certain scale, and then you will see also totally different kind and more profitable value streams, I believe, and therefore fully agreed. And you have to look into it from a longer time frame, maybe, and there you will have also social development, a part of the health topic, in terms of economic development locally more, in terms of these value streams that you will find. So I think it's a matter of a time frame, and we are just on the starting point, really.
As a raw material manufacturer, do you face a challenge from designers looking for natural materials, but which are hard to process? And then how do you guys manage that challenge?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I can only say yes. It's a challenge sometimes. I mean, through us targeting more systematically designers and CMF experts, we are present not only on conferences such as this one with a specific industry focus, but also where designers meet, such as the Design Milano week, for example. And here you have a lot of contact to designers and CMF experts, and they tend naturally to be critical also, in particular about plastics. What I really appreciate is they do not judge, they come with questions, with critical questions, and you can observe that they're eager to understand more, and looking into LCA analysis and looking into value streams that have a certain CO2 impact, as well as the energy used for manufacturing or processing products and materials. It's a complex system, and therefore it's a good opportunity to start such a kind of a dialogue, and we try to convince by the knowledge and expertise coming from our angle. We need to bring that together with a very conceptual, visionary, and partially ideological perspective that designers have on the future. They want to work on solutions. They work to make the world better and to create more sustainable solutions. And sometimes the first guess, as you rightly mentioned before, might not be the most sustainable solution. So, but they are open for that dialogue. So you have to meet them, and you have to create good examples. That is, I think, the key to it.
Sandeep, you want to add anything from product perspective?
Yeah, just from the product perspective or from the tier 1 perspective, again, I come back to the same statement. Sustainability does not mean that we should have a biodegradable or fiber-based material. If we are processing PP compound or engineering plastic compound with almost 0.5% rejection, it is sustainable, because today injection molding is the best technology available, which can reduce the scrap to almost 0%, because we recycle everything. But if we are bringing biodegradable material where there is no technology and then we have 20% scrap, this is not a sustainable solution. Right? So it is always better to go in steps, let the technology come, but till that also we can do a sustainability by doing various other methods of the existing things. So before, after, we don't need to jump to all those things which are not available today in India.
Something to add, because I think bio-based natural materials is a kind of a topic that is always in discussion. It starts already in plastics itself, because we get a lot of requests from people that say, okay, I want to create products that also look like more sustainable, and there is a kind of a trend into speckled materials, so that looks like scrapped or recycled material, but actually you can of course create these kind of effects in the material also without using recycled materials. And here we need to tell them, like, look, actually you are compromising mechanical properties and therefore durability of your product if you do that, because if you add too much of these effect pigments, then your material is not anymore performing as you wish. And on the other hand, we do not want to make part of a kind of a greenwashing, because then they tend not to use recycled grades but to use use virgin material and to have a look-alike. So we say, no, I mean, if you want specific effects and the combination with the mechanical performance of the material, stay away from that, or utilize RE grades, which you can create a broader sense of and option space of aesthetics. But at least they are sustainable without being necessarily recycled, and you don't create a look-alike. I think already there starts the discussion of educating in terms of compromising. Yeah.
On the strategy front, as an organization, as somebody who's in raw materials, when you define your strategy towards sustainability, what are the influences? Is it OEMs only, or does the influence also come from government, from the society around, or it's purely an organization initiative, something to have up on your sleeve, kind of?
I think when we started, it was certainly something coming out of the organization, but you can see nowadays that there are a lot of regulation and there's a lot of course, pressure also from the markets, I believe. And we were among the pioneers of formulating that we want to become fully circular, which is in particular in an energy-intensive industry like chemical, very, very challenging. And then the consequences in terms of actions, we need to orientate ourselves on scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 targets set together with our suppliers. That's a lever, and also together, of course, if you think about scope 3 downstream, again, we come back to designers. If you want to create positive impact in terms of CO2 and climate neutrality towards a circular economy to be materialized, then in particular in that stream, you need the designers to think ahead with a new product design and subsequently on the aesthetics as well to realize these kind of scope 3 targets to become climate neutral. So it has a lot of implications. Suppliers, not only from a material point of view or raw material point of view, but in particular also for energy supply. So we are switching all of our plants over time towards fully renewable energy, for instance, and increasing also the alternative raw materials. Plus, as we have talked a lot about recycling, and the limitations also that come with mechanical recycling. What I mentioned in my talk, heavily investing in chemical recycling, which gives you a much better opportunity later to have a similar set of material properties as you would have with the current production value chain.
Sandeep, you have been a global program manager, and there's a conflicting requirements when you are designing the same product for the same vehicle, but for different geographies. We know certain governments and regulations are more incentivizing in certain geographies. How do you, from a product perspective, how do you manage these different customer expectations in different geographies while maintaining the same design?
So first of all, in global program, we have to, of course, OEM does this global program because they get economics of scale. So that is the reason. But many times we have to compromise at various levels. So generally in India, if you see, the global program is shared with Brazil. Most of the time it is shared with Brazil. Most of the time it is shared with Russia. Okay, now no more Russia, but okay, it will be India and China, those kind of countries. So, and it happens that what is locally available. Again, it comes to what is locally available, what is the modular design. And so those parameters are looked at. Okay, the design remains, but sometimes there are compromises based on local requirements or local availability of the material or local cost structure, local regulations. So these parameters are to be looked at. And most of the time, finally, it is not the same product, most of the time. Okay, component-wise, it becomes sometimes, like seats are common or the IP design could be common, but there are some compromises which are always done on those fronts.
Okay. And how do you manage on the cost effectiveness part while managing the sustainability expectations?
Yeah, so always we are compared, India is compared at the lower side. So Brazil is costly, India is the cheapest thing. So those are always there. But now I think the situation have changed. At least at the global program, there are targets very well defined because the things are defined, and based on that there are targets. But if you take a cost target right from day one, and if you manage the end-to-end program till end of life with all the factors, then I think it is manageable. But the challenge still remains for India more, because we are always looked at as a low-cost country still. And when we talk about low-cost countries, but we don't have all the resources available. We don't have raw material supplies available. We have to import. But that perception has to be removed, that we are not making everything still here. And the global platform requires all the best technologies of the globe. Okay, so the OEM has to give that kind of benefit to India, in fact. Okay, they can take the advantage in terms of productivity, they can take advantage in terms of manufacturing, but in terms of materials or in terms of that technology, tools, if you see, we are still not making all the tools. Okay, so that anyhow comes from abroad. So that benefit, I think there is again, I think that awareness has been created in OEMs also, because they also have to defend their counterpart on the other side. But okay, that challenge is there.
Thank you. One last question to you, Christopher, because before I open it up to the audience here. From raw material perspective, Sandeep mentioned a lot of it is imported. And how do you juggle with the competitiveness aspect and the aspirations of OEMs in India who want you to give a sustainable or close to sustainable product?
Yeah, I mean, it's as you said, it's a challenge, and in terms of our raw materials, we are also an importer, and I think we source from many different places globally. The benefit that we can bring in is that we are globally also positioned with our production facilities, not only when it comes to compounding, but also when it comes to wet side. Fair enough, no wet side in India, but through the opportunity of importing from different countries and sources, that helps to manage it. Yeah, but it's of course a challenge. I think in the more long-term future, it's also opportunities for countries like India in that, because I mean the India Green that we formulated is based on the agriculture richness of India, and I think switching value chains of raw materials also to bio-based and these kind of aspects, that's also a great opportunity to change this kind of value set and competitiveness when it comes to backwards integration of a country like India with not so many oil reserves when it comes to change of this raw material base. So I think, let's see, I think the future is dynamic, and we need to always and had always to fight with different challenges when it comes to value streams globally. Right?
Thank you.
One point on raw materials, because we do not have that economics of scale, that's why we are importing. But I don't see it is too far that today all OEMs will come together and they will define that all interiors in one grade, all exteriors in one grade. It is not too far. Okay, because that will help. And this was there 20 years back when Toyota Qualis came. It was all interiors one grade, all exteriors one grade. People laughed at it, how the head impact will happen, how the air vent will be made. But I can again foresee and anticipate that this is going to come very soon, because the economics of scale will happen when everyone starts looking at that grade. Okay, but with EV comings and with all ADAS features and with all autonomous and semi-autonomous kind of thing, you will start moving to this kind of material. This is what I can anticipate, at least based on my experience.
Good, that's a good prediction. Okay, before we conclude, any questions from audience?
Sustainable. Here also we are facing difficulties in technology also. So my question is that to Sandeep sir, you said about we can't go through completely on bio material or bio things because it's technology not developed yet. So when it will be, so we can absolutely agree. But I have a question about recycling. So is recycling recycling is the solution for plastic? Is this the only way to for sustainable, or is there any other solution for that? Because sometimes we face key, like we are taking some material, it also use some chemical, and when we started to recycle, again also it's sent back to the environment. Because of this, it create lot of hazardness. So my question is that is recyclable is only solution for the waste of plastic or something else?
No, today our theme itself is recycle, reuse, and repurpose. So today for plastic, yes, recycling today is the solution today at present, and to have more and more recycle percent, because today the vehicle is not 100% recycle in terms of plastics also, because we have designed the parts, as I told you, we have a IP with soft IP, which is not a recycle friendly IP. We add glue and then we create more complexity. So that's why there is a concept designed for disassembly. Okay, so we have to create a design which can be easily disassembled by the people who are doing recycling. They should be aware that rather than trying to remove, heating it, and then pulling the vinyl film from the surface or doors or from seats, whatever it is. Okay, so that will ensure that more and more recycling is happening. And then the OEMs are helping us to redefine the product with recycled material. They have given now that, okay, you can use that much of percent, and in some products it is 100% recycled. So at least the circular economy is there at present. So it is again designing, ensuring more and more recycling is possible.
So seems we were very loud and clear in our message. Good discussion. I think we all agree that a dialogue has to be started. Education is the key for the designers, and thinking about the product and right at the design stage is something which is going to help. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure talking to you.